Oh, your overhead story channel, let's go listening.
Sunday night, 9:03 p.m. If I'm being precise. I remember because I had just sat down on the couch after getting back from the airport. Flew in from Houston that afternoon after closing a deal I'd been chasing for 6 months. Exhausted, hungry, and ready to finally unwind. I thought maybe Mallory and I would have a quiet dinner together, catch up. She'd been out of town too, attending the wedding of Nate's brother, Josh, someone we both knew through years of mutual friends and overlapping circles. She went on her own because I couldn't make it. She'd even said, "No worries, babe. I'll represent for both of us." And that was that. So when I heard the garage door creak open, I stood up, expecting her to walk in smiling, probably chattering about bridesmaid drama or Josh's awful dance moves. That was our thing, we'd joke about wedding cliches afterward. But when the door swung open, what I saw didn't match the Mallory I knew. She stood there in the threshold like she'd walked in on something she wasn't sure she belonged to anymore. Hair pulled back messily, shoes in one hand, phone in the other. Her eyes didn't light up when she saw me. Instead, they darted around like she wasn't sure what to say first. "You okay?" I asked, stepping forward. She gave a little nod. "Just tired. That drive back was awful. I'm beat." I took her bag and followed her into the kitchen. "Eat anything yet?" "No." I grabbed a sandwich on the road. "Not hungry." That was odd. She always came back starving from road trips, especially ones that involved alcohol and late nights. I noticed something else, too. She didn't smell like her usual perfume. Mallory had a routine: vanilla lotion, floral body mist, lip balm with peppermint oil. But that night, her scent was muddled, like she'd scrubbed something off. She looked clean, overly clean, showered just before walking in the door clean. Still, I didn't push. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I didn't want to believe what my instincts were already whispering. She went to bed early, barely speaking a word. I stayed on the couch, scrolling through work emails, trying to ignore the tight knot forming in my gut. The next morning, I woke up with a weird stinging sensation, brushed it off, drank some water, thought maybe it was dehydration or the stress from traveling. But by noon it was worse. Burning, itching, pain that made it impossible to sit still. Mallory texted mid-morning. "Hope your flight wasn't awful. Sorry I was quiet last night. Just tired. I'll cook dinner tonight, yellow heart." I didn't reply. I was already booking an appointment at urgent care. The visit was short. I gave a urine sample, answered the usual questions. When I told the doctor I was married and hadn't had any new partners, he tilted his head slightly. "Any chance your partner has?" I blinked. "Not unless something changed in the last few days." He nodded but didn't say more. 2 days later, I got the call at work. My phone buzzed just as I was wrapping up a Zoom call with one of our suppliers. "Mr. Dawson?" the nurse began. "We got your results back. You tested positive for chlamydia." I stared at my monitor, every sound in the office fading to static. "That's not possible," I said. "I've only ever been with my wife. Like, ever." She paused. "I understand this might be difficult, but this infection is only transmitted through S**zool contact. You'll need antibiotics and your partner should be tested too." I hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my office with the blinds drawn, staring at the wall. It felt like someone had taken a baseball bat to my stomach. I couldn't even form a coherent thought. I didn't tell her that night. I wanted to, but I also wanted to see if she'd come clean on her own. She didn't. She made pasta, poured me a glass of wine, asked about Houston. She leaned in to kiss me after dinner, and for the first time in 10 years, I felt myself recoil. "Everything okay?" she asked. I nodded, lied, said I was tired, that my stomach was off. I waited until the next day, Saturday. I figured if she was gonna lie, I at least wanted to hear it when we had no distractions. We were in the kitchen. She was putting groceries away, humming to herself. That's when I dropped it. "I went to urgent care the other day." She turned around, blinking. "Why? Are you okay?" "I thought I had a UTI. It wasn't." Her hands paused midair, frozen above a box of cereal. What do you mean? They said it was chlamydia. There was a beat, a long one. She didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't ask how or when or why. Instead, she said, maybe it's been dormant. Some infections can sit in your body for years. That's not what the doctor said. Then maybe the test was wrong. Her voice was too even, too prepared, like she'd rehearsed this. Are you saying I cheated on you? She asked suddenly, tone rising like I was the one crossing a line. I'm saying there's no other explanation. She laughed once, short and bitter. So I go to a wedding, come home exhausted, and suddenly I'm a cheater? You're the only person I've been with, I said, dead serious. Unless you think I somehow gave this to myself. She went quiet, turned away, opened the fridge like she was trying to disappear into it. That silence told me everything. The worst part? I wasn't even angry yet. I was numb, like my brain hadn't caught up to my heart. Later that night, I sat on the patio alone. I replayed everything from the past few weeks. The late-night texts, the new dress she didn't tell me she bought, the lingerie tags I found in the trash from a brand she never wore. She hadn't posted a single photo from the wedding. Not a picture, not a story, not even a congrats Josh and Megan text. Mallory was obsessed with documenting everything. Yet she came back with a clean camera roll. She hadn't just brought home a suitcase. She brought back a secret. One that had now made itself known in the most undeniable way. The human brain does this thing when it's hit with something unthinkable. It rewinds. Rewinds, pauses, replays. You start seeing things differently, like putting on glasses and realizing the world was blurry the whole time. That weekend, I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I lay in bed next to Mallory, her breathing steady, as if the world hadn't shifted under us. My eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling fan spinning uselessly above me. The infection had a name, a cause, a timeline. And so now, everything that felt small or forgettable started piecing itself into a larger, uglier puzzle. It started with the wedding preparations. At first, I was relieved when she told me she'd go alone. She said it made sense. I had the Houston trip, and besides, you don't even like Josh that much. I agreed. No drama. We were practical like that. But that week before the wedding, something shifted. She stayed out later than usual, claiming to be helping with decorations or fittings or bridal party logistics. She even said she was attending some pre-wedding brunch at the bride's aunt's house. The brunch was supposedly at noon on Thursday. I called her around 4 p.m. just to say hi. No answer. She texted back 2 hours later with a vague, sorry. So busy. And nothing else. No pictures. No stories. No random snaps *TS of cupcakes or gift bags or any of the little things she usually posted. Mallory lived for that stuff. Even a bad salad got a filter and a caption. But somehow, this weekend she supposedly represented for both of us. Left behind zero digital proof. That was clue number 1. Clue 2, the shopping. 3 days before she left, I found a crumpled Victoria's Secret bag at the bottom of our bathroom trash can. That by itself didn't raise flags. She's allowed to buy what she wants. But Mallory wasn't the type to hide receipts. And yet, there was no mention of the purchase. No show and tell. No casual tossing of a lace bralette onto the bed while changing. I didn't see any of it. Not before she left and not after she came home. It wasn't for me. Clue 3, her phone. I hadn't noticed it at first. But looking back, I realized her phone was always face down now. Always on silent. Mallory used to set it on the coffee table, face up, pinging every few minutes with texts from group chats or social notifications. Now, she kept it near her or in her pocket. Once, she actually left the room to take a call and said it was just her cousin. Even though she never once mentioned that cousin by name. I'm not proud of it, but that night I checked the screen while she showered. No recent calls. No texts from anyone named Maya, the cousin she claimed had called. Just blankness, like someone had wiped it. Clue 4, her affection. That was the strangest shift. She became clingy, physically present but emotionally slippery. One night, She curled up next to me on the couch and said, "Let's do something spontaneous. Just us." I remember thinking it was sweet, until I realized she wasn't really looking at me. She was looking through me, like she was trying to feel something that wasn't there anymore. And then, she did something she never did. She cried during S*X. She said it was stress, that she was overwhelmed from the wedding planning, from work, from missing me while I was in Houston. But something about the way she curled into herself after, the way she turned her face into the pillow so I wouldn't see, told me it wasn't just stress. I didn't press her. I just held her, like a fool. But by the time the diagnosis came, all those little moments snapped into place. If I had been faithful, and I had, and the doctor said the STI could only come from S*Zool contact, then there was only one possibility. She had been with someone else. And unless the affair happened years ago and the infection had stayed dormant, which the doctor explicitly said was medically unlikely, then it had to have happened during or immediately around that wedding weekend. I thought about how she had left Friday morning, saying she'd be back Sunday afternoon. She drove, so there was no airport timestamp, no flight tracker, and when she came home that Sunday night, her whole body language screamed guilt masked as exhaustion. I remembered how she had said she was too tired to show me pictures, how she brushed me off when I asked how the ceremony was. She hadn't even mentioned what the bride wore. Mallory always commented on the dress. That's how I knew she was lying. I thought about calling Nate, seeing if he had any photos from the event. But I stopped myself. I didn't need more evidence. The truth was already there. In her body language, her inconsistencies, her silences. The pattern wasn't new. It had just taken this to wake me up. I started watching her more closely after that. How she moved, how she talked, whether she flinched when I touched her. And she did. Just slightly, but enough. She jumped once when I entered the room unannounced. Not like someone startled, like someone afraid they'd been caught doing something they shouldn't. That night, I asked her directly, "Is there something you want to tell me?" She looked up from her phone, blinked. "What do you mean?" "About the wedding. About what happened there." Her face didn't change. Not immediately. Then her lips parted, like she was about to lie. But she didn't. She just said, "Nothing happened. Too fast. Too smooth." "Okay," I said. "Then you'll get tested too, right?" She froze. I watched her hesitate. A full 3 seconds. Then she said, "Of course." But I knew in that moment, before the test, before the results, that I wasn't imagining anything. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't insecurity. This was reality. Mallory had brought home more than a suitcase and a tired smile. She had brought home someone else's mistake. And now I was the one paying the price. It took 3 days to convince her to get tested. 3 days of skirting conversations, redirecting questions, and claiming she was just busy. She even tried to flip it on me once. Said my sudden distrust was damaging our marriage. That if I really believed she'd cheat, then maybe I didn't know her at all. That almost worked. Almost. But the thing about trust is, once it cracks, everything behind it starts leaking. I scheduled the appointment myself. Gave her the clinic's address. Told her I'd already let them know she was coming. She rolled her eyes and said she'd take care of it. But she didn't go the first day. Claimed she forgot. Second day, she couldn't get off work. The third day, I told her I'd drive her myself. That's when she caved. We sat in the car in silence. She stared out the window the whole ride. I didn't speak, afraid that if I did, I'd say something I couldn't take back. After she went inside, I stayed in the parking lot, engine running. I didn't scroll my phone. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there watching the entrance, wondering what kind of marriage has room for something like this. She came back out 28 minutes later. Said nothing. Just fastened her seatbelt like it was any other day. "You okay?" I asked finally. "I guess," she said. "It was quick. I'll hear back in a couple days." Okay. That was it. No apology. No nervous laughter. No thank you for going with her. 2 days later, she was sitting on the edge of the bed with the phone pressed to her ear. I stood in the hallway just outside our bedroom listening. I'll never forget her voice. It was quiet, Flat. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. She didn't say anything after that. Just sat there for a moment, eyes fixed on the floor. Then she turned and saw me. I didn't ask. She didn't speak. I raised my eyebrows. So? Her lips parted. And for a split second, I saw something flash in her eyes, shame. Maybe relief. Maybe both. It's positive, she whispered. I nodded. The room stayed silent for a full 10 seconds. Then I said, so now you're going to tell me the truth. Her shoulders slumped. She looked like a deflated balloon. No more excuses. No more spinning the story. Just the heavy weight of a secret she couldn't bury anymore. She didn't cry. Not at first. She said, it was one night, at the wedding. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, arms crossed. I met someone. He was a friend of the bride. He wasn't even supposed to be there. Came as a last-minute replacement for one of the groom's cousins who got COVID. She was talking fast, like if she told it quickly enough, it wouldn't sound as bad. We were all drinking. A lot. I don't even remember how it happened. Not exactly. We were dancing, then talking outside, and then she trailed off. And then you slept with him, I said, voice flat. She flinched but nodded. In his hotel room? Yeah. Was it protected? She shook her head. I closed my eyes. For a second, the room spun. I had known. I had suspected. But hearing her say it, that was something else entirely. She reached for me then, stupidly, instinctively, as if she expected comfort. I stepped back. Don't, I said sharply. Don't touch me. She dropped her hand. Her face cracked. Not just guilt, grief, but it was hers to carry now. I sat down on the chair in the corner of the room. Hands steepled. I needed to hear the whole thing, no matter how much it tore me apart. Walk me through it, I said. All of it. She hesitated, then nodded. After the ceremony, she said, everyone went back to the hotel bar. The whole bridal party. People were drunk, laughing, dancing. She hadn't eaten much all day, so the champagne hit fast. That's where she met him, Brendan. Short beard, soft smile. Wore a gray suit and didn't have a date. They talked. He was easy to be around. She said it felt innocent. Then the flirting started. I don't know what I was thinking, she said. I kept telling myself I'd stop, that I'd go back upstairs. But I didn't. They ended up in the elevator together. It was stupid. It was fast. It wasn't even. I didn't even enjoy it. Don't do that, I said. Don't minimize it. She looked down. I came back to my room after, she whispered. I showered. I cried. I wanted to pretend it hadn't happened. Then you came home, I said. You smiled at me, slept next to me. Let me kiss you. Let me... I stopped. And all that time, you were hoping you'd gotten away with it. She nodded. Her face crumpled. I was scared. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. But when you got sick... Her voice broke then. The tears finally came. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said. You did, Mallory. You hurt me, lied to me, and exposed me to something because you were too afraid to own up to what you did. I know, she said. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just... She didn't finish the sentence. Maybe because there was nothing left to say. We sat in that room for a long time. Her, sobbing. Me silent. I had imagined this conversation 100 different ways. I thought I'd scream, break something, cry. But instead I felt hollow, like something had been carved out of me. This wasn't just infidelity. This was betrayal on a cellular level. A violation of our trust, our health, our safety. And there was no fixing it. No timeline where this didn't stain everything. That night, I slept in the guest room. I couldn't stand to be near her. She left early the next morning to stay with her sister. Said she'd give me space. I didn't ask her to, but I didn't stop her either. I spent that entire day pacing the house, running through every memory like it might somehow explain why. But there's no logic to this kind of thing. No clean equation. Just a wound. A wound that can't be undone with an apology. I gave myself 1 week. 7 days of silence. No big decisions. No confrontations. Just time. I used those days to think, but the thoughts weren't the helpful kind. They came in jumbled waves. Memories, questions, flashes of her face that made me sick. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was surgical. Mallory stayed away. She texted once, "I'll give you space. I'm so sorry." I didn't respond. Couldn't. Instead, I sat in that house we bought together, the one we picked out after 3 years of marriage, and realized how every square foot now felt like a lie. By the third night, I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry. Not the loud, dramatic kind. Not the rage you see in movies. No, this was the quiet, deliberate kind. The kind that made you sit up at 3 a.m. and start drafting an exit strategy. I opened my laptop, logged into our bank account. The first thing I did was separate the finances. Everything we had jointly, checking, savings, investment accounts, I froze, closed what I could. Moved my personal money into a solo account I'd had since college. The house was under my name. I bought it before we got married, and though she'd paid for renovations, she had never pushed to be added to the deed. That turned out to be the first smart thing I'd done without knowing it. By morning, I was on the phone with my attorney, a contact through a coworker. Tough, clean, discreet. I didn't even tell him the whole story. Just enough. He didn't need more. Said the path forward was obvious. Infidelity with medical consequences? He asked. We've got leverage. Next, I did something I never thought I'd do. I pulled up the guest list from Josh's wedding. Nate, the groom's brother, my friend, had shared a Dropbox folder of photos and attendees. At the time, I hadn't bothered looking. Now, I combed through every name. It didn't take long. Brendan Halter. His name was in the RSVP spreadsheet, sitting next to guest of honor, bride's extended family friend. I clicked into his LinkedIn, then his Instagram, then his wife's, Lauren Halter, pregnant, second child on the way. I stared at her latest post for a long time. Can't wait to meet you, baby girl. 2 hearts, 28 weeks and counting. I felt my chest tighten. Brendan wasn't just a stranger. He was someone's husband, someone's father, someone who had taken a moment of opportunity and shattered multiple lives. I sat with that for a while. Then I called a private investigator. Same guy a friend of mine used when he suspected his ex was siphoning money during their divorce. The man didn't waste time. I need this done quietly, I said. He just replied, discreet is the only way I operate. I gave him everything, names, timelines, the medical records Mallory had received. My own diagnosis, the day she got back from the wedding. By the end of the week, he had what I needed. He'd tracked Brendan, confirmed the affair, confirmed that Lauren, his wife, had no idea, confirmed Brendan had not disclosed the STI to anyone. I can make contact, the investigator said. Only if you want. I thought about that, long and hard. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, about making sure someone else didn't live in the same dark that I had. I gave the go-ahead. He reached out to Lauren through a fake wellness clinic pretense, set up a call, explained the situation, carefully, respectfully, shared documents, including the testing timeline and a notarized affidavit from Mallory's clinic. 2 days later, Lauren filed for divorce. I didn't feel good, but I felt clean. Mallory called the same day. I hadn't spoken to her since her confession, but I answered. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to hear her voice break. She sounded shaken. You told her, she said. I gave her the truth, I replied. She started crying. Not the performative kind, the real kind, the kind that made me clench my jaw so I wouldn't feel anything. I never wanted this to. You never wanted to get caught. I cut in. That's what you mean. No, she said quickly. That's not what I meant. It doesn't matter anymore, I said. I'm filing. There was silence on the other end. A deep, panicked pause. I'll give you whatever you need, she said quietly. I won't fight. I know, I replied. You don't have any ground to stand on. I hung up before she could respond. The next day, the papers were served. My lawyer moved fast, included the medical documentation, timeline, and her own text messages admitting to the affair. I changed all the locks, put her name on a list at the security gate that barred entry without my approval. I didn't want drama. I wanted distance. Mallory tried to come by once, 3 days after the papers arrived. She waited outside the gate in her car. Didn't honk. Just sat there hoping I'd let her in. I watched from the upstairs window. I didn't move. After 20 minutes, she drove away. That night, I emailed my boss and requested 3 days off. Told him it was personal. He didn't ask questions. I think he saw the bags under my eyes and figured it out. During that time, I stayed off social media. I didn't tell friends. I didn't post. I just existed. I sat on my deck, took long walks, stared at my phone like it held answers. Didn't. But there was one thing I kept circling back to, Lauren. She didn't ask for this. Neither did I. 2 people pulled into chaos by the people who were supposed to love us most. When the investigator followed up, he told me Lauren had reached out to her own attorney. She was calm, measured, said she'd been suspicious for a while but hadn't had proof. Finding out like that was brutal, she'd said. But I'm grateful I know now. I wondered what that conversation between her and Brendan was like. I imagined the betrayal on her face, the disappointment, the protective instinct for her unborn child. We hadn't spoken directly yet, but I felt connected to her. Not romantically, just bonded by betrayal. That kind of pain creates strange, unexpected alliances. By the end of that week, Mallory's lawyer responded. No contest, no alimony request, no custody dispute. She folded completely. My lawyer looked surprised. Most people fight, even when they're guilty. She's already lost, I said. She just hasn't accepted it yet. I turned off the lights that night and stood in the dark hallway of our home. My home. I looked at the photographs still hanging, wedding pictures, vacations, birthdays, and I realized something. All those moments I thought were permanent. They weren't. But this clarity, this control over my future, that was. Mallory got served on a Wednesday afternoon at work. My attorney's office handled the timing. He said serving someone at their place of employment isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity. It removes wiggle room. It makes things real. She worked at a mid-sized marketing firm downtown, a place where team lunches, open office brainstorms, and HR-laced positivity were the norm. According to the process server, she was sitting in a glass-walled conference room when the envelope was delivered. Mallory Dawson? She looked up, confused, said yes. He handed her the papers. You've been served. That was it. The fallout came fast. By Thursday morning, her name had been quietly scrubbed from the company's About Us page. A friend of a friend who worked in her office said the rumor mill ignited within hours. Something about a messy divorce, STD stuff, the husband exposing everything. People speculated. That's what people do. I didn't care what version of the story made the rounds. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I wasn't broadcasting it. But I also wasn't shielding her from the consequences of her own actions. For once, the story wasn't mine to hide. 2 weeks later, we were in court. It wasn't a dramatic trial. No jury, no cameras, no shouting lawyers. Just a family court judge, 2 attorneys, and us. Sitting at opposite ends of a sterile room that smelled faintly of stale coffee and stress. Mallory wore a charcoal blazer and barely their makeup. She looked thinner. Her hands shook when she sat down. I didn't look away. The judge reviewed the documentation quietly. The affidavit from the clinic, the written admission from Mallory, the STI diagnosis, the timeline. The evidence was so airtight the hearing barely lasted an hour. Mallory didn't contest the divorce. Didn't fight for the house. Didn't ask for spousal support. The only sticking point was custody. We had a daughter, Ava, 4 years old. Sweet, curious, bright. She loved books and frogs and singing along to the Moana soundtrack. Mallory had always been a good mother. Until she wasn't. When we filed, my lawyer advised me to request full custody. Not out of pettiness, but for safety and stability. Mallory's judgment had become questionable. She had lied, exposed me to a medical risk, and while none of it had been directed at Ava, it showed a pattern. We submitted texts, calendar logs, even daycare attendance records from the weeks Mallory claimed to be busy with work, but had really been sneaking around. The judge listened to both sides, asked Mallory directly about the affair. She didn't deny it. When the judgment came down, it felt like a weighted gavel hitting the floor of my life. I was awarded full legal and physical custody. Mallory was granted supervised visitation twice a month, with review after 6 months. She gasped when the words were read aloud. I didn't. She turned to me after court, eyes wide, mouth trembling. Mark, please. I didn't do this to you, I said. You did this to yourself. I walked away. The weeks that followed were a strange kind of recovery. Mallory moved into a rental condo on the edge of town. I don't know who helped her. I didn't ask. We only communicated through a court-approved parenting app. All logistics, no emotion. She tried to soften her tone in messages. Tried to insert little things. Tell Ava I miss her. Or, hope your day's going okay. I ignored those parts. The first time she saw Ava under supervision, she cried for 10 straight minutes. I wasn't there. The monitor's report said Ava was confused. But okay, said Mallory tried to explain, but ended up just hugging her and promising to be better. Ava came home and didn't say much. She asked why Mommy had a new house. I said, sometimes grown-ups make big mistakes, but we're going to be okay. She nodded. Kids are more resilient than we give them credit for. I spent my evenings trying to rebuild routine. School drop-offs, bedtime stories, dinners that didn't come from takeout boxes. I repainted the guest room, turned it into a playroom, took Ava to the park on weekends, bought a frog habitat kit because she was obsessed with tadpoles. Every day, she smiled a little more, slept a little easier, and so did I. I didn't hate Mallory. I didn't wish her pain, but I didn't pity her either. There's something sobering about watching a person unravel by their own hand. Something final about hearing them beg after you've stopped listening. She sent a letter one afternoon. Old-school envelope. No return address. Inside, a 2-page apology. She said she'd hated herself since the moment she got that test result. Said she'd wake up in the middle of the night and still hear the sound of my voice saying, "You hurt me." She wrote about how it wasn't just the act, it was the lie, the cowardice, the disrespect. She said she didn't expect me to forgive her, but she hoped I'd believe she still loved me. I folded the letter once and put it in the drawer beside my bed. Not to keep, not to revisit, just to acknowledge. Let the apology exist but not define anything. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Mallory tried once, just once, to ask for another chance. It was during one of our parenting app exchanges. A small message, tucked at the end of a thread about Ava's backpack. Do you think, in time, we could ever try again? I stared at the screen for a while, typed a response, deleted it, typed again, then finally sent. No. She didn't reply, and just like that, the door was closed. Months passed. The silence in my home wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. Ava adjusted quicker than I expected. Her laughter came back, stronger than ever. She'd dance around the kitchen, sing in the car, sleep soundly through the night. Without tension hanging in the air, she flourished, and so did I. Work picked up. My company landed a contract with a state energy provider. I threw myself into it, rebuilt our finances, even started repainting the house. Each wall I touched was one less Mallory had marked. She still saw Ava during supervised visits. She tried being cheerful, asked questions about me through the handler, but I didn't bite. I didn't feel hate anymore. I felt peace. The kind that comes when you've walked through fire and left the smoke behind. The home was mine again. The life was mine again. And most importantly, Ava had stability. That was more than enough. 9 months after the divorce, I got a call from Lauren, Brendan's wife. Her voice was calm, composed. She said she'd finalized the divorce. He had begged to come back. She refused. We spoke for nearly an hour. Shared details, timelines, stories we'd both lived but from opposite sides of the same destruction. There was no bitterness, just clarity. She told me she respected how I'd handled everything, how I protected Ava and told her the truth when no one else would. I said I admired her strength, carrying a child while watching her family collapse. We weren't looking for closure. We already had it. Sometimes, betrayal gives you something unexpected. An ally, a witness, someone who understands the exact scar you now carry. Neither of us wanted revenge. We chose peace. Not everyone gets that, but we did.